Hi, my name is Fabrício. I write for a Disney news website here in Brazil called Almanaque Disney, and it's such a pleasure to be talking to you. I really wanted to start by telling you that I'm a huge Adventure Time fan, and I love bad doobies, so thank you for that. Love it. But talking about I Am Groot, I would like to begin by talking a little bit about the first season. What was it like for you as a creator to see the response of the audience to the series, which is a really funny show, and to see the public react to those new stories with this really beloved character?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, I've never worked on anything I think with this much visibility because it's a Marvel thing. So I feel like I don't know, and it's on like that was on the front page of Disney Plus, so that was such a huge deal and really exciting seeing that people enjoyed it. Like especially with the first season, I definitely have my fingers crossed because like we kind of were doing some weird things with the character and being really silly and having a lot of fun and it's there aren't many comedic Marvel thing, especially like a comedic animated short. I think it's the only one in the Marvel world. So yeah, I felt like we were doing something new, and it felt really great that it had such a good response and people were into it. And since they were so fond of season one, I'm really excited to show fans all the season two episodes because I do feel like we really upped our game. We already kind of had like a nice flow going with season one, and then we were able to go right into season two and just have a lot of fun with these episodes.
And just because I'm a little curious, when did you know there was going to be a season two? Did you know from the start, or was something that was discussed later?
Yeah, it was something that was discussed later. I think we were half or three quarters of the way through season one when we got greenlit for our season two. And so we were working on both simultaneously. We were finishing up season one and then starting to write the season two episodes at the same time.
That's really cool. One thing that I love about I Am Groot is, as you were talking about, those things when the series doesn't have a lot of lines or dialogue. It's a really comic in a way of the way the situations turn out and the physical comedy, I think.
Yeah.
And what is it like to direct something like that, and also to write because there's not a couple of lines, right?
Yeah, not a lot of dialogue. For me, it's kind of in my wheelhouse. Like like a lot of the projects I've worked on before didn't have much dialogue. I think the projects that I have worked on that do have dialogue, it makes me really nervous. Like I get like the Adventure Time thing. I was like, oh no, I have to write jokes. Like I was really nervous about it. But for this, I think the physical comedy comes more naturally to me. I like when there's very little dialogue, to no dialogue. And I also think it makes it more relatable and universal. It's sort of like it doesn't matter what language you speak, like that physical comedy kind of, I think it for the most part works, like regardless of, where you're coming from in the world, and what language you're speaking. So that is also something that is really appealing to me to be able to share something like that with more people where things don't get lost in translation necessarily. Yeah, I mean, I love that about his character, that it really just relies on the simplicity of his expression, and then what he's doing like physically, and then like music and sound and everything else.
I know from some past interviews that you gave last year, talking about the first season, that Groot is a character that you really like. What about him makes him really appealing for this kind of series?
I think it is because he is so relatable, like I was saying. But I think another reason that he is relatable, on top of the that he's a tree of few words, is just that he's kind of he's not a human character. He's a tree. Like in a lot of animated movies, you see a lot of the characters are played by animals, and I think that makes them, more relatable when it's not just like a specific actor or a specific human. I think people are more able to see that character like Groot, who's just an alien tree, and just be like, oh, he could be anyone from anywhere. Like we can all kind of see ourselves in Groot. So that's another thing that, yeah, I really love.
And that's a thing really relatable in the show, because those new episodes, like my favorite ones are the Snow Day one and the Ice Cream Truck one, which they are set in space and they have like this sci-fi vibe to it, but at the same time they are really human and they're really common experiences. What is important to you for the series to have these more grounded stories that people can relate to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are the types of things that people are always going to gravitate toward, is like things that, it's funny, he's a tree, but yeah, he's sometimes more human than some humans, or some like human superhumans that you would see. So for me, yeah, that really appeals to me. And the same thing with like a snow day, you know, it's like I've had that experience, like school's canceled, you get to go out and play in the snow. Like, what are you gonna do? You know, so just even getting to just drop him into what does it look like when Groot plays around in the snow, even without the whole snowman part of it at the end, like just watching a montage of him goofing around and getting into trouble and shaking the icicles off the trees, you know, is fun to come up with those ideas.
Really funny, really clever. So you were talking about also your past experiences, and you did a lot of things like the Adventure Time episode, more recently the Oscar nominated Marcel the Shell with Shoes on, which is a great film. And those were like stop motion products or productions, which is not the case for Maya and Groot. But what's the common ground in those work? How do you approach it? What's similar and what's really, really different?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the medium, this was my first CG project that I ever worked on or like ever directed. And I think I was a little worried at first that it was going to be totally different because it's a different medium of animation, but I was pleasantly surprised that it's very, very similar to directing stop motion, with the only exception that most of it was done remotely. Like most of it, we were able to just direct over Zoom. I think the whole first season, I didn't meet any of the crew members until, you know, like we screened them until they were done. You know, mostly because of the pandemic, but also just because you're able to work with more people in more places. Like for our vendor Luma, I think a lot of their animators are just all over the world. Like there's some animators, you know, in Australia and some artists in India, some artists in, I don't know, kind of all over Europe and everything, and South America, Brazil, you know, it's like people are everywhere. So I couldn't do that with a stop motion production. Everybody would have to be in the same studio in Los Angeles. Whereas like it was really amazing to get to work with artists like from all over the place. That was like probably the most fun.
We have time for one final question, and I can end this interview without asking you if we are going to see Groot again in the future.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Cannot confirm nor deny. I would like to see more Groot, you know. I'm happy that we're seeing Alpha Groot and Teenage Groot and Baby Groot, and you know, we're getting all the
all kinds of Groots. But Kirsten, thank you so much. The second season of I Am Groot is great. It's really funny, it's really clever, and I loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.